Hey guys, it's Thomas Griffin here. I am the CEO and founder of ArtSquare. This webinar in particular is for all of our artist users. We've got a couple thousand users who are using ArtSquare almost every day to make their art career better. And so I think that the purpose of this webinar is to really do justice to the people who have signed up with us early on and to do justice to sort of the ethos, why we do what we do, and where we're headed in our work within the art industry. So let's start from the beginning, as most stories do, about why I'm involved and sort of some of my background, and then we'll get into some of the product moving forward. So I'm Thomas, like I said, the CEO. I started ArtSquare about 3 years ago. Feels like a lifetime and also not that long ago simultaneously. And I started ArtSquare my senior year of college, actually. I was purchasing some art online, and I'd been working through some entrepreneurship classes, some business classes, and eventually settled into this idea of helping college artists sell their art. The value of a college degree is incredibly subjective, and sort of my effort there was to help solidify some of the value of being a college artist with a BFA. And so I started helping some of my peers sell art to alumni. I built a physical art gallery on campus in my business school. And really the entire purpose of what I was doing is to help connect artists to patrons before they graduated in an effort to sort of increase the value of their degree. And I was pretty successful. I worked with, I think, close to 70 artists over that year. There were from several different colleges and universities, and it was a really awesome, really exciting time. But I sort of noticed that there were some pretty systemic issues to what I was working on that wasn't easily solvable. And the first problem, and probably the most important problem that I've been wrestling with for the past 3 years, is that artists aren't necessarily ready to sell their art. A lot of times that's sort of a tough reality, but it's a true one, in that artists don't have the requisite skills and experience and focus to sell art, particularly online. And so I would ask these college artists to send me over their files to put on the website and start to sort of promote them and syndicate their art around. And most artists responded with, I don't actually have files of my art. I've got some iPhone shots, but they're not very good, and I don't know how to go about getting those. And so I bought a DSLR camera and started taking digital photographs of the student artwork for $5 a shot. I did not make any money doing this. It was a lot of trial and error. It was very difficult. I'm sort of a perfectionist in how I go about my craft, and so I was very, very intentional about getting very good at doing the actual capture and getting these files for artists. And then I started to research sort of, the landscape generally of how do non-college artists go about securing digital files of their artwork, and are they good? Is this solution an appropriate one for where we are in the modern world? And I discovered that it's not. A lot of artists are spending way too much time, way too much money, and there's way too much inconsistency in the process on the whole. And so I set about trying to solve that part of the problem of how do you make it dead simple for artists to find a photographer who's affordable, who knows what they're doing to capture and deliver these digital files to these artists in a really seamless way. Because if you think about it, the entire art world is sort of moving towards that one of the most important assets that you can have as an artist is the digital representation of your work. It exposes and brings your work from the storage closet to the total global population that's connected to the internet. And there's a lot of power in that. And so sort of the discovery was the understanding that there was a larger breakdown happening in the art world. And I'm the type of person that I love to tinker. I sort of love to rebel just a little bit. I like breaking the rules. And so I sort of nestled into this niche of how do I and how do the people that I care to work with and how do the artists that I'm passionate about collaborate and work together to create an environment that is more conducive to artists finding success in the world today. So the art world today, I think there's a lot of important context that needs to be discussed to sort of understand the value of ArtSquare. A lot of artists are well researched in this, and I've sort of done my own trial and error of trying to understand, the historical context of the art world, where it is today, and where it can head if we work together. And so the context that I'm coming from this is that sort of the old guard of decision makers in the art world, it was very constrained. It was a small percent of the art world that were sort of doing the curation, sort of a small percent that were attributing value to artworks. And it's sort of an oligarchical approach to value. And you see this in similar parallels in some of the creative arts as well, like music, with large record companies. And what you've seen be able to happen with platforms like Spotify. They have their challenges, certainly, but you cannot argue that they haven't helped democratize the process of distributing musicians' passion to a broader audience. So that's the old guard. And there's this sort of emerging new opportunity to leverage the internet for widespread distribution for visual artists as well. And no one's really cracked that nut in a really scalable way that's actually sort of a rising tide that's lifting all boats. And the particular challenge with visual art online versus digital media, videography, music, etc., is that it's such a visceral experience. It is such a natural experience to have with the artwork right in front of you in the physical world. And there are some concessions that need to be made for distributing your work in the digital world. But where the two sort of biggest breakdowns occur are in establishing trust online and preserving your story online. And those are both really big challenges. Establishing trust online, there's so much piracy, there's so much sort of replication and distribution that's illegal, that it's really hard to know what is a file and an artwork that is appropriate and appropriately accredited to the original author, etc. And there's a lot of sort of Wild West happening with sort of understanding if what you're looking at is genuine, what you're looking at is actually the artist's work, and it hasn't been modified, it hasn't been replicated, etc. And that what you are attempting to purchase even maintains the value that is communicated. Sort of pseudo as an investment, but more generally, just when I buy this work, is it actually going to look like what it looks like on my screen today? The second part is story. So preserving story, and how do you, as an artist, sort of maintain the potency, the power, the impact of who you are as an artist, and how that is innately intertwined with the work that you're creating. How is that preserved over a digital medium? That's a really difficult challenge as well. And there are a lot of solutions to that. I think it's mostly being able to be diligent and disciplined in your process. Make sure that you're documenting as much as you can, and that you speak very candidly about yourself and your work online. So that's sort of the two primary challenges that I see and that I'm passionate about solving in the world. The third one is sort of an interesting ecosystem that's been built because of the growing pains of this democratization in the art world. There are literally hundreds of places where you as an artist can sell your art. There are hundreds of them. Some simplify pricing, some handle shipping, some do print on demand, some only sell this particular type of art. There are so many options. And it's really difficult for an artist to wade through all of the options and pick the sort of niche platform that supports exactly what you need. And that is further, the challenge of that is further increased because of the sort of time commitment that you as an artist have to make to participate on these platforms. If you want to sell on Vango, which is a great platform, I recommend it, but if you want to sell on Vango, you have to spend several hours getting your work on Vango. And if you don't see a sale within a month or 2 months, you have to have the discipline and the vision and the focus to log back into Vango and put more artwork on your portfolio and update that portfolio. And it's really, really challenging to keep your work up to date because it's sort of this disconnected thing. And if you're not seeing sales, it's hard to sort of keep and maintain that buy-in and that enthusiasm for the product or the platform that's helping you sell your work. And so ArtSquare exists. ArtSquare is sort of this in-between layer between the artist and these sales platforms that's sort of tackling these problems of how do we make this whole thing easier. We don't necessarily want to sell your artwork. We haven't sold art in multiple years because that's not our focus. There are plenty of places where you can sell your art, but there's only one place that is building software and community and educational resources to help you understand what it really takes to be an artist in the modern world. Stop spinning your wheels, stop spending a lot of money on things that aren't actually helping you, and invest in the tools and the resources that you need to know that you're making the appropriate steps and headed in the right direction. It's one of my favorite things, just an aside, it's one of my favorite things whenever I get to work with an artist and sort of defog everything for them and see the clarity happen when they say, oh, like that's what I need to do today, and this is what I need to do tomorrow, and this is what I need to do the next day. And over the 3 years that I've been in the art industry, I've had countless hundreds of those experiences with artists, and I love that I'm getting to build this software, collaborate with the team to build the software that solves that problem in an autonomous way that scales sort of beyond my own passion. So I tend to ramble, apologies. But what ArtSquare is today, we are an unlimited cloud storage platform. So what we want you to do as an artist is to go to your desktop and look at all the files that you have. You probably have many, many duplicates. You probably have butterfly TIFF file, that's the master file, and then 12 different JPEGs that are all resized for different uses. We want you to go find the best file that you have, the master copy file, and upload it to ArtSquare. Because if you get that file on ArtSquare, you can store it with us, and it's sort of that default storage place for you to know that this is where the file lives permanently. And then once you give us that file, we actually run an analysis on that file, and we sort of tell you evaluatively, is this file appropriate for the different opportunities that exist in the art world? So I think that's sort of fascinating in that when you give us a file, we're going to tell you back that this particular file actually qualifies for large-scale printing. So if you wanted to print this on a 3-foot by 4-foot, you know that you've got the necessary sort of ingredients in order to be successful in that endeavor. Similarly, we'll tell you if it qualifies for smaller prints or merchandise, and if it's optimized for web use. And so you can sort of see on this evaluative scale of how good is my image overall, and sort of stop the guesswork. And from there, we sort of connect you to these opportunities that exist. So if your files are good, man, let's give you an entire population of opportunities to where you can sort of pull and pick and choose which places you want to distribute your work and which opportunities you want to leverage to promote your art career. And if your files aren't good, which is the problem that I experience most of the time, most artists' files are inferior. It's a sad reality. And we're trying to fix that. But if your files are not good, we want to stop the guesswork there and say, listen, realistically, this file is the same as going to a job interview in a dirty, wrinkly suit. You might be quality, but you're not communicating quality. And we want to help you communicate the quality of your artwork and sort of make the digital medium not prohibitive to you, but actually help you in your career. And so what we do is when you upload a bad file to us, we actually will connect you to a local photographer who's experienced in converting your original artwork to a pristine, high-res file and will automatically replace it in your portfolio. And so we're able to do that, and that lets us, take thousands and thousands of images and sort of just run that analysis on them and then make smart recommendations to our artist users in a way that sort of removes that from the equation of having to do that evaluation on their own. So that's awesome. So now I want to talk about just a little bit of, okay, you've got great files. Now how does ArtSquare help you? And this is the part that we're investing heavily in. This is what I do all day, is I sit, I don't always sit, sometimes I walk around, but I sit and I think about what, if the quality of the files is removed from the equation, what sort of environment should we give artists so that they have all these opportunities in front of them? And we actually do a pretty effective job at this. We are sort of in this middle layer that makes us non-competitive with anyone in the art industry. We don't make enemies in the art industry. We're actually collaborative with them in that we get to aggregate all of these opportunities, all of these gallery showcasings, all of these different art sales platforms, all of these juried art show fairs, all of them, we get to put them in front of you and say, you know, hey, you have these files that are good. Now select what you want to do next. And I think that's pretty revolutionary. A lot of artists feel really isolated and feel like they don't have a lot of exposure to any real helpful, legitimate opportunities around them. And we get to just bombard you with them. And the investment that we're making here is to sort of make that more intelligent, where if you're a watercolor artist located in Los Angeles, here are exactly the opportunities that you need to be exposed to and not have to wade through the mess and the minutia of all these things that aren't very relevant. That's where we're headed. But yeah, just sort of giving you all these opportunities. The second part of this is sort of, because we are a community of thousands of artists now, we have a lot of leverage in the space. There are a lot of suppliers, a lot of printers, a lot of sales platforms, website hosting companies, etc., that all see our population of artists and are willing to offer discounts to our community because we've banded together in a way where we have sort of some purchasing power. And so this is something that I'm really passionate about, is we are able to sort of pull together all of these discounts. So 20% off all of the printing that you ever need to do. Boom, that's handled because you're an ArtSquare artist. 10% off a Squarespace account. No submission fees to these particular galleries and these particular shows. All of this we're able to do, and we're going to continue to grow and invest here to where the value of your sort of membership, your participation in the community is actually saving you money. So not just giving you new opportunities, but sort of carving out some more efficiencies for you, so where you're not wasting any money and you can save money on some of the necessary things that you need to do. The third part, and this is the part where Andy, which most of you know from his work in ArtSquare Academy, is sort of our educational resources. When I got into ArtSquare, I noticed that there are a ton of articles and DIY hacks and tips and tricks of how to do this and how to do this. But none of it is sort of aggregated and put in a really easy to digest place. We have some partnerships with some amazing art consultants, some of the best in the business, and they're working very hard to produce more and more content, and we're working to sort of tie all of this together and create one sort of master encyclopedia, you know, ArtSquare School, ArtSquare Academy, where artists can access in a very easy to sort of digest, very palatable way. Hey, I want to explore selling art on Instagram. I'm going to go to ArtSquare Academy and find out how to do that, which we actually have a PDF guide on how to sell your art on Instagram. You should check it out. Instagram is an incredible platform that's helping a lot of artists make a living selling their art full-time without having to work with any sort of third-party gallery or curator. So sort of where ArtSquare is today is this partner in your art career. We have invested a whole lot of our time, our energy, and just our thought into what needs to exist in the art space. And we're at the beginning stages of this. So I want to tell you just a little bit about where we're headed and what I'm most excited about, and how we can actually leave a mark and fundamentally improve the art industry on the whole. So the first place that we're starting is sort of making the image analysis part more intelligent. So right now where it is you upload a file and we sort of tell you yes, no, yes, no, yes, no for the different sort of tiers of quality. So it's either a yes or a no to large prints, but not much beyond that. And so we're wanting to invest in sort of this more qualitative, not just looking at the resolution of your file, but looking at the composition, looking at the crop, looking at the actual tags and metadata of your file and making recommendations on that. Because I'm not, maybe some of you know what metadata is, but it's the actual data that is attached to the file that describes what that is to different computer systems and websites, etc. And so what we want you to do is give you sort of that raw file, give us that TIFF, that master copy, and then we'll walk you through the process of improving that file in the places that you can, providing some analysis and recommendation around how to sort of capture this artwork more adequately in terms of composition and lighting and color balance, etc. And then obviously the quantitative, is the file resolution high enough for this? And then from there, we want to sort of bake in some smart recommendations. So this is a watercolor painting of a butterfly, and we know that Coca-Cola is working on some licensing deals where they need this particular style, your image qualifies in terms of resolution and composition and actual like content. And so how do we make an intelligent recommendation of what that image is best suited for? So that's an interesting investment that we're making in the platform. There's obviously a lot of work that goes into that, but I want you to sort of get a glance behind the curtain of the sort of things that we're investing in building today. I alluded to this second part a little bit earlier, but sort of this more intelligent curation of opportunities at a local and global level. So similar to the licensing deal, particular to the quality of your file, we want you to be able to log in every day, every week, and see local LA opportunities if you're an LA artist. We want you to see local impressionistic opportunities if you make impressionistic art. That's sort of similar smart curation of opportunities around you to sort of clear out the minutia of all these opportunities that aren't super relevant to you and only give you, 10 fresh opportunities right in your inbox, right in your dashboard every single week. That's a pretty massive investment in both sourcing that content and building the technology that sort of understands who you are and understands the type of art that you make, and then shows you a customized list of where you can submit your art. But that's an investment that we're making. The third is sort of this global community of discounts and membership, etc. We're just getting started here. We've got discounted printing, we're working on discounted supplies, we're working on discounted educational resources and hosting services. But the legitimate impact of this can be much, much more broad. This can be something where if you need studio space, you can have discounts on your space. If you need access to a particular membership or community, you can get that through ArtSquare. If you need transportation services or framing or photography, that all of that is baked into being an ArtSquare member. And we envision really scaling that out and making it incredibly valuable to you as the artist. And then the final thing that is sort of the most top secret lab sort of thing. I believe in transparency, and so I will talk openly about it. But this is sort of the secret sauce of what we care to build in the world today. I'd mentioned sort of the difficulty of getting your portfolio on any site. Getting your artwork on ArtSquare takes time. If you have 20 artworks and they're all 100 megabytes each, TIFF files, pristine quality, it's going to take you some time to upload that to ArtSquare. Now, if you want to upload that to Van Gogh and Saatchi and Etsy and any other art and your own website, that's sort of multiplying the amount of time that you're going to have to invest to make sure your portfolio's up to date. So our vision for ArtSquare is that you log into ArtSquare, you get all your files on our site, and then you look at a series of light switches, not literal light switches, but buttons. And one light switch is Van Gogh, one light switch is Saatchi, one light switch is your own personal website. And you just push the button, you just flip that switch, and it sends all of your information to the website, all of your information to that art sales platform, all of your information to some gallery who's representing your work in Beijing. And it's seamless, it is simple. All of the data that you need to send can be automatically sent. And we want to build those sort of tunnels to all these different platforms. That's a massive investment. That takes some serious, substantial elbow grease and a lot of technical sort of expertise to do that. But we're getting started on it. And this is where I think we legitimately changed the art world. This idea of exclusivity, where you can only have your artwork in one place at one time, is going away. This idea of sort of the limitation of distributing your work and sort of the amount of effort, the number of units of effort that you have to exert to get your art anywhere it needs to go is going away. And we're going to be the #1 company, the #1 sort of movement and organization and community that is pushing that forward and making sort of your ability to distribute your art so fluid in the world. And that's going to be very beautiful because that rigidity, that non-fluid nature of the art world today is the very reason why there's so much turmoil in the art world. Because there are online channels, but those online channels experience a ton of churn and platform abandonment. And a lot of art buyers don't have a ton of confidence buying art online. That changes whenever the fluidity and the analysis of the quality are all in place. And so that's a beautiful thing that that is why I wake up in the morning and start working on ArtSquare, because I see what can be and how amazing that is for an artist who's located in a small town in Nebraska to be able to become a professional full-time artist, because our platform and other platforms too understand exactly who needs to see that artwork today. If you are making art that has meaning and substance and beauty, how do we leverage technology to ensure that the right people see it at the right time? And how do we help you build a community of people who resonate with that around you? And we're doing it. So this is not a, hey, check in 3 months. This is a long-term initiative that we're committed to see these changes happen in the art world. And so because it is, you know, a pretty big project, it is, you know, we wake up every day and we're not necessarily solving those massive problems. We're solving the problems of today in a way that compound to produce something that has substantial leverage to actually change the world around us. But we need help. We're not going to get there on our own talent. If it was just me, I would still be selling art for college artists, and I wouldn't be able to have the impact that I want to have in the art world. And it takes my team. We have 6 people who have been involved in the project over the past 3 years, and they have poured themselves into this project. They've poured their talent, they've poured their passion, and they've poured their time into it because they see what can be. And so how you can help is, I want you to see what can be also. I want you to look at my heart. I want you to look at our team. I want you to look at the words that we use, the products that we build, the conversations that we have, and I want you to believe in what's possible. I was on Facebook the other day talking to a couple of artists about an opportunity that we were presenting to this particular art group to help them sell their artwork and get some t-shirts made. And there was an artist in particular who sort of just had an extreme level of mistrust. And he carries that mistrust, not just for me, and I try not to make that sort of personal thing, but he carries that mistrust towards anyone who's working in the art space generally. And I understand that. I understand why it would be very difficult to believe in this bright, hopeful, connected future, because artists have historically and still today been taken advantage of. There's sort of that joke that circulates of trying to get an artist to do something for free for the exposure of it, and how unjust and unfair that is. And the saddest part of that is not that one artist has been taken advantage of one time. It's that it's baked into this culture, sort of this us versus them, of creatives versus sort of the business people in the art world. And I envision a world in which the creatives have an insane amount of trust for the intentions of the business people, and where the business people have an insane amount of appreciation for the beauty that these creatives are making and the necessity of it in the world around us. That's more of sort of my ethos, and maybe I'm rambling a bit there, but I want to share that. I'm working on a blog post to sort of address that and sort of speak to the sad part of that. But where you can help, I want you to believe in us now and get to celebrate with us over the long term. And so I want you to make the investment of keeping your portfolio up to date, upgrading to the emerging plan, and helping support us in what we're doing. More important than that, though, is to provide feedback. If ArtSquare is my art, it is a ceramic piece and the clay is still soft and hasn't been molded yet, I know what it needs to be, but I need other skilled hands that are helping to shape it. And I want you to do that. I want you to see what I'm saying today, and I want you to grab a hold of it and then help us stay aligned to that vision. I want to create accountability with myself and the employees, with you as the artists. I want to be responsive to what you're saying that you need this product to be, and I want us to be very quick to implement those suggestions. And I want to have an open dialogue with you. The third thing, equally as important, is that you share our story. We have a finite budget, as every company does, to spend on a handful of different things. We spend most of our money building our product, because we understand that if you make something truly beautiful, you don't have to spend money telling people it's beautiful. They'll recognize it as beautiful. And that's what we want to do too. We want to have that conversation with you and refine ArtSquare into this beautiful thing. And we want to sort of hand that off to you, the artist community, to share that with the broader artist community around you, to sort of let people know what we're working on and why it matters in the art world today. So yeah, you know, there's a lot of work to be done. We've already done a lot of work. I hope that you can appreciate sort of where ArtSquare is today, and I hope that you can fall madly in love with the vision of what could be, because that's what I love, and that's what I see, and that's what I work on every single day. That's it for sort of the core part. We have some questions. Let me pull those up real quick, and we'll go through a Q&A, and then I will let you guys get back to your day. So let me hit refresh here and see if we've got some responses. I really should have brought water. I'm talking so much. Let's see. Okay, Patrick from Portland asks, how can ArtSquare help me actually sell my art? Patrick, good question. So like I said earlier, ArtSquare doesn't sort of explicitly sell your art on your behalf. But we can help you sell your art. The first way that we can help is to tell you if your images are going to help you or hurt you online. So if you're wanting to sell your artwork online, that's sort of the first place to start, is figure out if the sort of raw materials that you're distributing to help you sell your art are helping or hurting you. So that's step one. Sort of the second one is to help educate you. So actually informing you that those art files matter very much. Is a part of that. But the other part is, you know, for who you are, where you are, what type of art that you make, and what your natural passions are, where should you be focusing? Andy does a great job. He has a lot of conversations with a lot of experts in the industry to sort of help make that education a bit more accessible. So we can help you in that way of helping educate you on sort of best practice for your art career. Discounts is another great one. We can help you save more money on the actual process of making your artwork. And I think that's helpful. A lot of artists are doing this part-time, and they don't necessarily have a whole lot of resources to put towards their art career. And so if we can make sort of the process of making your art and making prints of your art or hosting your website more affordable, we can do that too. And then finally, working with some of our art sales platform partners, we're working on some relationships there where we can make it easier for you to get your artwork on their site, maybe reduce some of the commissions, reduce some of the fees. We'll be working on that and still have a lot of discovery to figure out sort of what's best in that direction. Good question, though. Deborah from Cincinnati says, how can I get my artwork photographed in Cincinnati? It's a wonderful question. So we very candidly had photographers in 60 cities around the United States and that could photograph artwork. And honestly, we failed in a couple of different ways. We had the photographers in place, but we couldn't honor those photographers the way that we needed to because we couldn't give them enough work. So there weren't enough artists in Cincinnati to keep a photographer there full time. And so we've sort of engineered this solution for that, of making sure that when we do hire photographers, that they are receiving enough work, that they're staying busy. And so if you want to have your artwork photographed in Cincinnati, Deborah, what you need to do is send us an email, get in touch with us, or actually go through the booking process on ArtSquare. Go to artsquare.com/book. You'll see our core cities where we're fully active, and then you'll see a section called Anywhere Else. And on that Anywhere Else, you can click that, fill out the form, and we'll ask you a couple of things. Have you hired a photographer before? And if so, that's really important to us, because if you know a photographer already, we're going to hook you up with some free photography if you can make that connection to us and he or she starts working with us. But more importantly, we'll ask you if you're interested in partnering with us to bring ArtSquare to Cincinnati. And that doesn't take a lot of effort. What that looks like is you committing to working with us in Cincinnati, just as an ambassador, and then telling your friends who have sort of this photography need as well, to sort of make a group. Sort of like, I think they had the Tupperware parties. I'm not sure. My mom might have done those. back in the early 2000s. But probably cooler, but where we get all of this artwork together in one space and sort of the photographer assembly line photographs it all. What that does is that shows the photographer that there are enough artists in their area for them to do that full time. And it makes the photography itself very affordable. I think the cheapest we've made it because of that assembly line group event is about $10 per artwork. That's ridiculously cheap for the quality of files that the artists are receiving. But sort of the cherry on top of all of this, of bringing ArtSquare to Cincinnati, is that if you help us do that, we are going to pay for the entire cost of the photography of your portfolio. So if you bring 10 artists and we photograph 150 artworks, all of your artworks are going to be free to have photographed. And so if you're an artist on a budget, but you're well connected and you know a lot of artists, or you sort of care about bringing ArtSquare to your friends, we want to help you do that. We want to make it affordable to you. Great question. Okay, let's do one more. We've got a question from Olivia in New York. She asks, do you guys host any art shows or other similar things to promote artists' work, or will you in the future? So do we host art shows or anything else to promote artists' work? So we are mostly focused on the tech side. And so we don't have lab coats, but we are very much embedded in making the technical product better. And we have less of a physical presence in places. Our photographers are absolutely there. And so hosting art shows is something that we haven't had necessarily the resources to do in the immediate term. But as we think about how ArtSquare should grow and where it should sort of head, in what direction, we've played around with the idea. I really love the idea of collaborating with a photographer and a group of artists to do a pseudo show, pseudo shoot that sort of handles all of the above. That's a possibility. We do promote artwork on our blog, ArtSquare Academy. We have a Feature Friday where we discuss some artists who are impressive to us. We have a Behind the Canvas where we sort of pick an artist, not necessarily at random, but just an artist who we enjoy. And we do a write-up of why they do what they do, where they can be found online, where they live, what their story is, and showcase some of their artwork. That's a really fun and easy thing for us to do, and that goes out to our larger audience. And so that's helpful for promoting and showcasing your work as well. We'll continue to invest in that. I think it would be, I can't say this on the record, but I think it would be absolutely wonderful to have a video series where we go around and just document the creative process of all of our ArtSquare artists, and sort of compile that into a video and sort of expose that visceral sort of part of the art creation process to the larger population of art patrons. We have a lot of ideas, and I'm certainly a technocrat in that I focus on how we can leverage technology to do that. But if you have any ideas, Olivia, or any sort of requests, absolutely shoot us an email and we can discuss some options around that. That's all we've got time for. This lasted about 40 minutes, which is right in the sweet spot. So in closing, I just want to thank you guys for being on the webinar, and I want to thank you for believing in us early on. Everyone who's had access to this webinar so far has been an ArtSquare artist, and it's meaningful to me. It's really difficult to be in the present and to long for sort of the future vision and to stay disciplined in it. And the reason why I'm effective at doing that and the rest of the team are effective at doing that are because we see the impact that we're making today. And that impact is not one-sided. We're helping you all, and you are helping us sort of refine our ideas, refine our vision, and give us the energy to continue, sort of our muse for what we're doing on the business side of things. So I want to thank you. We'll have more of these. I really enjoyed this. I'm looking forward to feedback from all of you. But if you've got any questions or any comments, or you hated this, shoot me an email and let's have a candid conversation about it. We're absolutely open to hearing feedback from you. So Yeah, go ahead and share this if you like. We want anyone to see this. If you haven't logged in a while, go log in. We're pushing updates all the time. We have a new homepage. Go check it out. It's a lot more clear, not so convoluted. So check in periodically and see if there's anything that we're producing that is delightful to you. And if it's less than delightful, we'd love to hear from that as well. But you guys have a wonderful day. I'll talk to you soon.